I'm going to show you guys how to use your digital SLR camera and create some blurred motion shots along with some light drawings. So right now I have it on auto on my SLR camera. It's tracking, and I'm going to switch it to manual in order to do these types of images. So there's three things you have to pay attention to. There's your aperture, your shutter speed, and your ISO. So with slow shutter speeds and creating blurred images, you want to make sure that you have probably somewhere between under 1/40th of a second, so 1/40th, 1/20th, then all the way down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds for light drawings that will do. You can use anything like a flashlight or possibly even your light on your phone. So we're going to create light drawings by turning on our flashlight and then drawing in the air. You might have seen these type of images before. I have to get the room ready because right now it's kind of too light in here in order to make this happen. So I'm going to close the window, make it as dark as I can. This isn't the most ideal background being white. It would be better if it was black. It would make the light show up more, but there's always Photoshop or Lightroom, and you can go ahead and lighten or darken your images once they're processed in your post editing. So right now what I'm going to do is close the blinds. Come around and turn the lights off because you want to make it as dark as possible. And now we'll see what the camera's reading in auto mode. Now essentially you want as dark a room possible, but for being broad daylight right now outside, this is about as good as we're probably going to get. As you can see, my camera is automatically adjusting, so I'm going to go ahead and switch it to manual mode. And the Nikon D3500 doesn't have the best facial tracking autofocus. So I'm going to click it over to manual. And now you can see what my settings are. So first off, one nice thing about this camera is you can see all your settings on the back with a little visual picture. So first off, I'm adjusting my shutter speed. Now, my meter was telling me in this room, probably about 1/25th right now, or 1/13th would be the ideal setting, but we're not worrying about the ideal setting because we're trying to create light or blurred motion light drawings. So I would say a good starting point for us would be, in the seconds. So I'm going to start maybe about 3 or 4 seconds. And then our next thing we're going to want to adjust is our aperture. So our aperture, I hold on this camera model, I hold a button down and then make my adjustments for my aperture. So I'm going to close it all the way down because I want to let less light in as possible. And considering it's already daylight outside, we want it as dark as we could possibly get. So F32, and then we'll put our shutter speed back to like 4. Now our ISO is at 400. For this particular type of shot, I would put your ISO for now as low as possible. That's something you could adjust later if you needed to, if you were maybe in a dark setting, if it was night, if you were outside. On this camera, I just hit my info button, I go to my quick adjustment. And for now, I'm just going to put this down to 100. Now, since I switched to manual mode, it should also now be in manual focus. I'll double check that once I click back out. So it looks like we're much darker now. I'm going to come out. And it's definitely not auto tracking now, so it tells me that's in manual focus. Now I'm going to have to use something out here to use as a focus point. I'll just grab the studio light for now. So I'm going to put the studio light here. We'll raise it up actually. This is pretending to be me and about the spot that I'm going to stand. And I'm going to focus on that point in my manual focus. So I'm going to come over and just go back and forth until I feel like, as you can see, just my hands moving is creating it looks a little better. Maybe like right there. It's good enough. for what we're doing. So we're doing blurred motion shots anyways. Let me check up close on the screen. And that looks pretty good. So remember, we're at 4 seconds. Our ISO is at 100, and our aperture is as closed as it can be. So it's a high number. It's an f32, I think it was, or 22. So the next thing I'm going to do is get my light, which I have here. I'm just going to use my phone light, and I'm going to draw. Now I have to kind of look and see. It's going to be an experimental type process. So you have to look, you have to try it a couple times. Experiment with the seconds, experiment with the length of time, and then if you need to, make adjustments with your ISO or also your shutter speed to counteract the lighting. Now you can always put it back in Photoshop, darken things down later if they're too light. Let's go ahead and take an example, a sample picture, and see what happens. So when I do these light drawings, I actually hold over the light like this, and then when I'm ready to begin the drawing, I step back, I do my drawing, make sure my frame of reference, then I cover back up, and then I come back down and out of the picture. So that's what I'm going to practice. That's what I'm going to try to do right now. So here we go with our first one. Okay, so first experiment, I'm a little short. I was trying for a heart. Let's see if we review. So it's showing me that maybe I have to start a little bit quicker. One thing you can do to counteract this is you can set the self timer. So I'm going to set the self timer this time and see if that can help us get out there quicker to get the whole shape in. I would say overall lighting wise, it's pretty good. I don't think I really need it much darker for this example. So I'm going to leave the adjustments where they are and do another experiment with the self timer and see if we can get it in there. So on the back, I'm going to go back to my shooting mode. Back in shooting mode. Now I'm going to come down to my self timer, turn that on. You can change it to 3 or 6 seconds in your menu, but it's at 10 right now. So I'm just going to stick with 10. Now I'm ready to shoot. So it's going to count down from 10. I'm going to start it off. I know it's starting because it begins flashing. I'm actually going to come out. It's going to get faster. We'll try a couple over here. We got one. Let's try it again. Oh, that was a mess up experiment because I didn't reset the self timer. So let's see what this one comes out. So it's just a blurred motion shot of me, which is also a type of photography. I'm going to reset I want a little bit brighter actually. So I'm going to slow down my shutter speed a little bit more. Actually, no, I'll do one more and see if we can nail the heart. So I'm going to go back, self timer. You got to turn the self timer on every time you do it. It doesn't let you do it multiple times on this camera model. All right, self timer's on. See how many I can get in here. Maybe a balloon. Closer. Try one more. Self timer. So see, you have to experiment. It's about the 4th or 5th shot. Let's try now. Close. One more. Then I'm going to show you some blurred motion shots. Gotta go a little bit quicker, I think. Yep, because I heard it. I'm going to do one more second. I'm going to add one more second on. So I'm going to come back to my menu. Actually, sorry, back to my controls. And I'm going to go up to maybe, let's go up to 6 seconds. Let's try 6 second exposure and see what I can get in there. Seems like I keep getting cut a little bit too short with the 4 seconds, so I'm going to try 6. So we'll click back, set the self timer, and go for it again. And let's see. Closer. I'm going to go a little bit higher. And then I think we got it. Last one. Try 2 quick ones, see how far we get. Tried 3. See what happens. Well, I got cut off a little bit on the last one. So again, I need to come up a little bit or put my camera down. So I'm going to put my camera down. Last one. Let's do a 10 second. I'll try the double hard again. I'm covering over in between the 2 hearts, so there's no line in between. Getting closer. So you guys could experiment, have fun with that. I'm going to actually show you some other just blurred motion shots right now. That was our light drawing experiment. Now I'm going to show you some blurred motion shots. So let's go back to our settings. And I'm going to take my aperture and actually put it back brighter, let more light in. My meter's coming back to the middle, a little bit over, because I want it to be brighter. That was overall darker because I had the flashlight, and I want it to be a little bit brighter now so I can see the portrait more when I try to do some blurred motion shots here. And I might even put my ISO back up to 400. Actually, let's take a shot like that. So I'm going to do 3 close, medium, far away. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So now we're dealing with blurred motion. So the longest point I sat was in the very back motion. Now I'm going to stand in one spot and just twist my head around very slowly. I'm actually going to raise my ISO up too. So I'm going to go back to menu and settings. And keep it about 5-6 seconds. Just change the ISO. The sensitivity to your sensor, remember, is your ISO. Put it back up to 400. I like 400 just normally, depending on if you're in a low light situation or a bright situation. You know, if you're in a super low light, you would keep going higher. If you were in a really bright day outside, you want to keep your ISO down at 100. But I'll put it back up for 400, just give us a little bit more light in here. And I'm also going to do the self timer again, so I can get in the correct spot. So here we go. Self timer's on. And I'm completely out of focus out there, so I'm going to adjust my focus. Put my sample focus back up. Looks kind of cool though, even me moving around and kind of going off into the distance. Let's get our focus back though. We lost our focus at one point. So let's see here. There we go. That looks better. Next, I'm going to go in my menu and make sure I have it on manual focus, because I think it might have adjusted. So let's go back to menu, go back to our focus mode. And it's still an autofocus. I'm going to pull it down to manual focus, so it doesn't make any adjustments. And then same here. And it's already set. So now let's come back. So we're on manual focus now. Now, when I come in and out, I should focus a little bit better there. And as you can see, just from me moving the focus, you can see how much the camera actually does move subtly. That's why you use your tripod, because you want everything that's in the frame to stay focused. So let's try that. Let's actually leave that in the frame. And then I'm going to come next to it, and you'll see how this stays in focus and I become blurry. So let's just double check, make sure we're on 10 seconds again. Come over, start it off. Countdown. Stand right next. I'm going to twist my head from one side to the other. See how this one turned out. So now we're playing around. So my head's totally moving. The light stays completely focused. I might try to do a couple spins now, like a slow motion spin. So let's see what happens with that. I'm going to raise it up a little bit. Go back, just double check the focus. Looks good there. One more timer. I'm just going to do like a slow motion swish across. Actually kind of coming from back to front. Second. Start it off. Here we go. Moving forward, coming at the camera slowly. See how far we get. So now you can see if I put that in Photoshop and darkened everything down, let's take a look at what we did. I'm going to move slower, do it one more time. Let's see, I could also make it a little bit, let's review. So if we go to the pictures, we're a little on the dark end. So when I put that in Photoshop, I'll really start kind of playing around. Some blurred motion, trying our light drawings there. Those are always fun to experiment with. Couple other ones, some more blurred motion shots. So let's see, I'm going to actually try one more just to wrap it up. I'm going to go to my settings. And I'm going to go 8 seconds. I'm going to make my aperture open even more so more light comes in. So let's try there. ISO is at 100. Could put that back up. Thought we changed that, but maybe we forgot to click yes. Okay. So here we got ISO 400. Let's try 7 seconds, 6.3 aperture, see what that gets us. Flip it back. 10 seconds. Self timer on. Try some arm flaps. And then come forward. So I was losing my arms there because it's such a long exposure. So to counteract that, because I want to get more, actually right now it's taking a picture because I just clicked it. So we're going to wait a second. It's probably just going to be a blur. There we go. There's nothing there. Now I'm going to slow it down a little bit and give myself more light so I can try to be a stronger presence in the picture, because it was such a long exposure at 8 seconds. I'm moving so much that I'm almost becoming too faint. So let's go back. I'm going to go down to like 4 seconds. Then I'm going to take my aperture, open it up more. Because I still want it on the lighter end. I don't want to be dark. I don't want to be too dark. So let's try that. 4 seconds. And actually, I think I might put my ISO back down a little bit. Try 200. Okay. I'm going to remove this out so it's just me. Set the self timer. And go. I usually pause in certain parts for a couple seconds or two. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So there we go, a little blurred action. I'm just going to try 2 basic poses this time. I like the lighting of that. I can see myself a little bit better. So let's see. 10 seconds. Hit it. She's going to 2 backs. Like this. And then I'm going to go back the other way. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There, now I'm kind of elastic. I'm kind of turn into an elastic back and forth. I'm going to try one more time. Try to get it so I get more of a double instead of just more of one. It's a little bit of timing with the self timer. It's kind of tricky because you don't know exactly what precise moment it's taking the picture, so you're kind of guessing how long between the clicks and the sound of the camera, how long and when the camera is actually exposing with the shutter open. And try to do a elastic again. One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2. See how that turned out. There you go. That's better. So there's our two kind of elastic shots. So that much experimentation took me, I mean, that was maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 shots. So those 10 or 15 shots, it took me a while to kind of get something that I felt like was good enough to where, maybe I would go and work with it and put it in the program and do some editing afterwards, because the subject I felt was or is good enough there at the end. So if I go and I just review my pics, I would say that's probably the better one out of all the series. Here, I wasn't quite staying in the position long enough on both sides. I stayed in the first position a little bit too long. And again, if you put these in Photoshop and really start playing with the brightness and contrast or Lightroom, things will really start to emerge out that you can't see that well. Like that front person, the front position probably would project out a lot more if I lowered the contrast and raised the contrast and lowered the brightness. So why don't you guys go ahead, give that a try, have some fun, experiment. This is one of my favorite types of photography, blurred motion. It's super experimental. You never really know what you're going to get. That's half the fun. I might even take a couple of these pictures and double expose them in Photoshop, put them right on top of each other, and then you have multiple kind of figures in one image. I'll probably clone stamp out that light now. I don't really like that there, but it was good for you to see just how something that's still in the picture will stay focused even at an 8-second exposure, and the thing that's moving will be the thing that will be the subject that ends up blurring. But overall, I mean, this one, maybe that one's kind of cool. I could do something with that. And then the elastic experiment, I'd say that one probably turned out the best. So have some fun. Thanks for watching, and keep taking those photos.